All right. Well, first of all, welcome again to I'm not even gonna say an episode. This is just more of a transparency moment. Going back to my roots again, I am Coach B, aka Coach Benefield. Um, you know, pretty much wanted to just jump on here and say again, thank you for everybody that has tapped in to the podcast, to all the guests that I've had up to this point, to all the people that have come on and joined me, and the people that will be able to join me down the road. I just want to give y'all a huge shout out, a huge salute. You can see I kind of spun the background a little bit. You know what I'm saying? For this type of episode, I felt like I had to get in my element. I had to get in my zone and really kind of go back, go get in the locker room. This is a locker room episode. Again, to all the future sponsors that I'm about to have, I shout out to y'all. Typically you would see that I would have a drink here with me, but I am on a cleanse officially as of the month of May. I'm doing a 30-day cleanse, trying to get my body I guess you could say reset my body. You know what I'm saying? With the summer coming around, can't be walking around with all this excess weight. You feel me? I got to make sure that I can, be able to take my shirt off a couple of times. I'm going on a vacation here in the next month. So I said this month, I'm going to really lock in. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to sharpen my mind. I did cheat a little bit yesterday because it was Cinco de Mayo. So y'all don't, you know what I'm saying? Y'all don't hold that against me. I only had one shot though. I had one shot, and then the rest of the night I was drinking wine. So yeah, but we back on water. So that's all I'm drinking right now is water. That's all I'm gonna be drinking through the duration of the month, trying to get my body together. But anyway, I mean, I appreciate everybody that wanted to jump on, and I wanted to do this specifically at this time. As you can see, the dashboard at the bottom. This is going to be my full NFL preview of the upcoming season 2023, and I wanted to do that because of the fact that again, my roots is coaching. And I tell y'all all the time, the ones that have tapped into me, the ones that subscribed, again, please subscribe. Please continue to subscribe, continue to share, continue to like, comment, so on and so forth. But, I was a coach first, and I always am tapped into the athletics and sports and things of that nature. So I definitely wanted to hop on here real quick and, just basically do a full rundown. My thoughts, these are going to be my genuine thoughts of the upcoming season. Um, the good, bad, and ugly. And I'm gonna say for anybody that's gonna watch this, I appreciate y'all in advance because I do know that there's a game tonight. I know the Lakers is playing the Warriors. It's a pivotal game 3. So I'm not gonna try to take too much of y'all time. I promise. We're gonna try to get in and we're gonna try to get out. You know what I'm saying? You can see by the background, put myself back in the locker room. Like I said, I got Bean behind me. I got Bubba Chuck behind me. I got the legend, Brian Dawkins behind me. We definitely going to get into, that side, in a minute here. But yeah, make sure 8:30 Lakers Warriors. I know a lot of y'all probably going to tap in. I don't really know who I'm taking in game 3. LA's going home. They got, they lost game 2. I'm a Sixers fan, so I'm still looking the wounds from last night. From that wild game that we put on TV. That's another story. We're not gonna get into that. This is strictly about football. This is about ball. And again, for those who don't really know me, I do have roots in coaching. I've been blessed to be on the field. I've been blessed to be able to share the field with great guys and great leaders, great educators, great young men. Um, for the past, for those 4.5, 5 years that I was coaching. And I'll make this kind of a short little background about myself. So I started coaching I stopped playing. My last season on the field was in 2014. That was my last season, my senior year. And I remember sitting in Coach Anderson's office, who was the head coach out at the time for West Virginia State, the school that I ended up getting my degree from and playing ball. We sat down, we had a conversation, and he asked me, he said, what do you want to do after you get done playing? And I immediately said, hey, I want to get into coaching. I want to learn everything, that about the game. You know what I'm saying? And then at the time, I was still trying to figure out if I wanted to play professionally or at least give it a try. And I did, but I wasn't the fastest. And it didn't work out for me. The cards didn't work out in my favor. But I ended up getting an opportunity. He put me on to this high school, South Charleston. I ended up interning there, and then I took a year off. And I remember I got my first job at Albright College, a Division III in Reading, Pennsylvania. For those of you who don't know, Reading, PA is a very small city, like probably like I want to say give or take an hour from Philadelphia. Got on with there and spent 2.5 years there. Great 2.5 years. First year we won a lot of games. I started as the running backs coach actually, which is different from my background. My background is actually playing receiver. Um, so yeah, I played receiver in college. Transitioned. My first job was coaching running backs. Had no idea what I was doing. But the greatest part about coaching was, and still is to this day, and while I still appreciate it to this day, is because you really learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about yourself as a leader. You learn about where your skill set is, and you really learn a lot about your weaknesses. Um, and kind of that was the thing for me with with the weaknesses part of it was that your weaknesses, and that's the greatest part about football, is they get exposed. And I got exposed at times, so I had to make sure I tighten up and get to it and strengthen my skills, my tools, and transfer to wide receiver. Actually, after my first year coaching running backs, learned a lot about the position, and then transferred over to my position wide receivers and things like that. So long story short, this is nothing new to me. Coaching has been always is still in my heart. I still got great connections with coaches and all that. So just to give you all a little bit of backstory about that, in a nutshell, 4 years, 2.5 years at Albright, went on and got a position, a receiver's position at Edinburgh prior to COVID, Edinburgh University, that is, and then after COVID, I had to make a transition, and you guys know that from watching these episodes. But this episode is strictly all about the NFL. It's been a lot going on. The draft happened a few weeks ago. I'm gonna talk about that. I'm gonna talk about where I see my top 5 things that I see that's gonna happen this year, which I'm super upset because I actually did this last year, but I didn't have a podcast at the time. I was still kind of in that beginning stages of the podcast, and yeah, so I actually went on and made a top 5, what I think was going to happen, a top 5 such and such, with the season. And like 4 to 5 things happened. I can't remember everything. I do remember one. I said the Jags was going to make the playoffs, and they made the playoffs. And I was so sick because I did it, but I didn't post it. And they ended up making the playoffs. And I was like, man, I should have posted that. Like it would have been crazy if I had posted it at the beginning of the season and then be able to revert back to it at the end of the season. So, shout out to the Jags because they definitely, I predicted they was gonna make the playoffs last year and they did. But I want to start first into this whole NFL preview. Is I want to kind of I just gave y'all a backstory about me as a coach, but I also want to give you my backstory as a fan because for those that don't know me, I grew up in the tri-state. Um, I watched my first game I watched, I believe, was in 1990. I want to say 1999. It was it was or matter of fact, it was 98. It was the year that Randy Moss went crazy against Dallas, his rookie year. And I remember watching the game. It was Thanksgiving. I watched the game. And yeah, I immediately fell in love. Like that was my first NFL game that I ever watched. And I was like, okay, yeah, that was the year, that was the year when he had like 3 TDs on like 4 catches, for like over 200 yards. Like he went crazy. And I remember watching that game, and my uncle at the time, who's still my uncle, I shouldn't say at the time, but my uncle was a Cowboys fan. So I was, at the time living with my mom, and that's my mom's sister's husband. So I was rooting for the Cowboys. So I was probably a Cowboys fan for, give or take, I'm gonna say maybe a month, right? So then after that month, I remember I moved with my dad, and my dad is an Eagles fan. And I remember forgetting, me and my pops was sitting there, we was watching the game, and I just wasn't really into it. And I was asking him, like, hey, like, what's up with the Cowboys? I think asking him about the Cowboys. He was like, ho, ho, ho. He was like, ho, ho, hold on. He was like, What you mean? What's up with the Cowboys? Like, no. You're an Eagles fan. Like we root for Philly on our side, on this side. We root for Philly. So yeah, there was that. Ended up for the rest of the time after he said that, I've been an Eagles fan ever since. I remember the first real Eagles game I watched was, I believe it was 2000. We were playing Washington. That was the year, that was the game McNabb went crazy and was, shake. That was him, that was McNabb right after Syracuse. You know what I'm saying? Like his first 2 years when he was really a runner. And I remember he was giving Washington the business. And from that point on, from 2000 on, I've been an Eagles fan ever since. Um, and like, if for every Eagles fan, shout out to all my Eagles fans. We've been through the ringer as an organization, as fans. We done been through the ringer. Like, I mean, you're talking about, like, I've been a fan since 2000, so I came in during a period where the Eagles were actually really good. 2000 was kind of the turnaround year. It was Reed's second year. 2001, I remember we went to the first NFC Championship game against the Rams, with the greatest show on turf. We was wearing them corny white on white uniforms. We had Tom Pinkston, James Thrash, Deuce Staley. McNabb was still in his earlier years. We ended up losing that game, but we played really well. Probably was a super underdog, and I was too young to even get into betting. But if I was, and I saw the line, it was probably favored the Rams by a lot. Had no business being in that game, but we were really good that year. Then I remember 2002, we come back. I remember McNabb. I think that year we started 0-2, and then we got on that run. We got to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? We beat Tampa Bay in the regular season. That was when they had Warren Sapp and Derek Burgess in that defense. And then, they come back to the vet, and all Philly fans still know this game because that was the infamous Rondé Barber game when McNabb threw the pick six to Rondé Barber at it going in the score. And that broke our hearts. And that was the last game actually in Veteran Stadium, RIP Veteran Stadium. I actually got to watch a game in the vet. And then you got the next year, 2003. I remember this game like it was yesterday because we ended up playing the Panthers in the NFC Championship game and had no business losing to them. Like the game, I believe it was like 13-9. McNabb got hurt. I'm like watching this game, like I'm thinking, okay, it's Carolina. Like we done lost in the NFC Championship 2 years in a row. This is the year we're gonna get there. The first year in the link, it's lit. We playing the Panthers. I'm like, they ain't got no word. I mean, yeah, they had Steve Smith and I think they had Stephen Davis at the time. But like they weren't nobody crazy. I'm like, it's the Panthers. Like we end up losing that game. So we done lost 3 straight NFC Championship games, and I don't believe we ended up going back to the NFC Championship until 2008. Or no, excuse me, the next year, 2004, we got TO. So we got TO, went crazy that year. We went like 9 straight before we lost to the Steelers. That was the game Hans Ward did the Eagles thing. We lost to the Steelers that year, but then we went on a run. That was the year that T.O. got hurt when Roy Williams, punk ass, grabbed him by the back of the jersey. That's the infamous horse collar tackle that still gets flagged to this day. Shout out to Roy Williams for making that rule. Pulled T.O.'s back of his jersey. He ends up breaking his ankle. And then, the Eagles end up still making a run without T.O. and get to the NFC Championship. We all like, oh, here we go again. We end up playing Vic and the Falcons. This is when Vic was rolling, doing his thing. End up winning, finally getting to Jacksonville, and then losing to Tom Brady. And then that was the year after 2004. We didn't go back until, I believe, 2008 when we played Arizona. Another team we had no business losing to. Because if you go back to the 2008 season, that was the year that McNabb got benched. McNabb actually got benched. And we ended up having to play. Sorry, I'm just checking my phone here. I'm checking my phone to make sure that everything's on point with YouTube. Give me 1 second, y'all. I'm gonna get right back into my story here. Yeah, everything's good. So yeah, we ended up playing the Cardinals. We ended up playing the Cardinals in the NFC Championship game. And I remember this game like it was yesterday. We go up there, Larry Fitzgerald goes stupid. We ended up being down, I think it was like 20, I want to say it's like 24-6. And then we went on like a 18-point comeback. D-Jack bomb over Rogers Cromartie. We up by like 3. I'm thinking it's lit. And that was the year everybody was guessing the whole Pennsylvania versus Pennsylvania Super Bowl, the PA Super Bowl, because the Steelers had just made it to the Super Bowl. So if we would have won, it'd have been us versus the Steelers, and the Super Bowl would have been all Pennsylvania Super Bowl. But of course, we lose. And after 2009, I don't think we actually went back to the NFC Championship until the year we went to the Super Bowl in 2017. But I say all that to say that I've been an Eagles fan now for pretty much my entire life. Been an Eagles fan. So I've seen the good, the bad, I've seen the ugly. And I don't think it's ever got any uglier for me as an Eagles fan. I would say there's probably 2 different scenarios, occasions where it really got bad. It was during that whole stretch of we were having quarterback. We had like Mike McMahon playing quarterback. We had Kevin Cobb as a quarterback. I mean, we had like Jeff Garcia, who actually did pretty good. You know, them years when McNabb couldn't stay healthy to save his life. Those was the tough years. And then, you know, from I would say like 09, I remember 2011 we weren't really that good. 2012 we weren't that good, and that was the kind of the last few years of the Reed era before he resurrected his career. Shout out to Big Red, he resurrected his career and went to Kansas City, and you know the rest is history. But those were some tough years. Like it was hard being an Eagles fan in them years. You know, we trade beat off. Now 2010, I think 2010, 09 and 2010. I think 2010 was the year we got Vic. And that was the first year where I really thought we was going to win the Super Bowl because we had Vic Macklin was young, D-Jack, Shady was coming into his own, Shady McCoy. 2010 was a great year, even though we lost to Green Bay in the first round at home. Don't know how that happened. And then 2013, we should have went back. That was Chip Kelly's first year, which I'll get into him in a second because then he was another one. 2013, we had a great year. That was the year Foles went crazy, but we ended up losing, I think, to the Saints in the wild card. And then I would say 15 was tough, 16 was tough, and then 17 we finally got over the hump. And then I don't even count COVID because you know it was COVID. It wasn't really a lot going on. And you know, it was just a bad year because Carson Wentz and all that. And we'll get into him in a second. But I say all that to say this. I say all that because this team, this organization has been one of the staples in the NFL, period. There's not too many consistent organizations, consistent from the top down, from the GM, from the owner, from, you know, the head coach. And it's only a handful of, I would say a handful of organizations, not teams, organizations in the NFL that have everything kind of outlined, a very strategic, detailed organization as far as the management and what they want to do and what they want their team to look like. What do they want their organization to look like? You know, you would think about, I would say Pittsburgh is definitely up there. I would say New England, if you minus the recent things that have been going on, you know, probably the past 2 years, but New England has been a stable organization. And I'm saying, when I say stable, I'm saying like, you know, they're out of the news. You know, there's not really a lot of drama. They're not really having to, you know, the owner isn't doing more talking than the head coach. You know, they got a good structure. They're always, you know, if they do have a down year, they always bounce back and end up having a great year. The next year, they're never consistent and belligerent offenders like some of these organizations out here that just, you know, can't get right. But you would think about the stable organizations. I would say, you know, New England would be one. I would say definitely Pittsburgh would be another one. I would put Philly in that category. I definitely would put the Eagles in that category. Kansas City now over the last few years, and then I would put Seattle. You know, I would say those 5 organizations, not teams, organizations are the ones that I would say consistently have, they're always in the right spot. They always, if they do have a down year, they always know how to resurrect themselves and bounce back and be contenders. So I say all that because, Philly has been through the ringer. We've been through the ringers as fans. And I think, and I'm saying this because, again, I always want to preface the comments by saying that this is going to be about my top five. The first thing that I'm going to say about what I feel like is going to happen this year, this upcoming season in 2023. When I look at it as a whole, and this is going to be very new for me because I've never done this before, but when I look at it as a whole, when I look at it from the top down, from the owner, the GM, the head coach, and the players, when I look at from the top down and everything that this team has done. Now, I'm not speaking, and this is one time where I'm not speaking as a coach, I'm speaking as a straight up fan. The very first thing on my list that I'm going to tell you guys right now that I believe in 2023, the Philadelphia Eagles will be back in the Super Bowl. Period. We're coming for everything. Yes, I'm right there with them. South Street. Come find me. Because I've been through the ringer. We've been through the ringers as fans. And what this team has done collectively from the outside seems like it's, they're making moves, they're doing other things, and they're putting things in position. No. Let me tell y'all something about this team. Let me tell you something about this organization, and I'm gonna just speak more from the heart, and just kind of shoot y'all straight because that's what this podcast is about. There's not too many teams out there that I see, all 53, including upper management, head coach, owner, GM, that can step on that field and be able to go toe to toe with us. I don't see that. I think that out of all the years that I've been an Eagles fan, probably minus, I would say 2010 and 2004, this year and even, 2017, I'll put 2017 in there, the first year we went to the Super Bowl. This year feels a lot different. This year feels a lot like they're going for something that there's a goal. There's a mentality that they're bringing. There's a mentality that they're building. There's an identity that they're trying to have and trying to manifest. And it's shaping up in front of our very eyes. And a lot of y'all are probably not even seeing it. But as a fan, I see it. And I say that because it ain't just so much about the moves, right? Everybody wants to point to free agency and point to the draft. But it's just the way that things, you always can tell a lot about a team by how they handle adversity. I always say that there's two things that makes a great team. You got to have a structure. A structure meaning you got to have the right type of leadership and you got to have the right people in the right positions. You got to have the right type of leadership in these positions, and you got to be able to build an identity. Look what these guys did right after the Super Bowl, right? We'll just use last year. We'll even go back a whole calendar year. This time, a whole calendar year ago. You went out and you traded for A.J. Brown in the draft because you have a quarterback that you got to put pieces around because you saw what he can do and you saw his ceiling, but you got to be able to put the pieces around him to make him do it, to help him get to that next level and to elevate his game. You go out and you draft a receiver. You go out and you trade for a receiver like A.J. Brown. And then you go out in free agency and you bring in guys like James Bradbury and Darius and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and you go out and you draft Jordan Davis because you have a need in the interior because you got guys in the interior that are getting a little up in age. They're really seasoned vets. So they're on a pitch count now, and you got to get younger. You build this identity around this team and around this quarterback, and you get this, and you bring that all the way into the Super Bowl, right? Now let's just go back to 2017. We did the same exact thing. We get to the Super Bowl. We draft guys in the draft that can be plug and play guys. We go out in free agency. We go and get these guys like Alshon Jeffrey and LeGarrette Blount, and they come and be those plug and play guys in free agency. We get all the way to the Super Bowl. It's great. What happens? This guy leaves. This guy goes here. This guy goes there. This guy, gets traded. This guy gets released. The whole 9 yards. So you go and you basically just mortgaged everything for just that 1 year. Well, see, this is a lot different. And I'm not a fan of just throwing and pushing all your chips in the table for 1 year. Because, yeah, you'll be good in that 1 year and you'll get the notary that 1 year, but that's all you're going to be remembered about. That's why I respect coaches and organizations like Alabama and now what Georgia's building, because it's not just about the now. It's about in the future. It's about 3 years and 5 years from now. What can we consistently do to have this level of success over a period of time? Because like I said before, there was a period of time where the Eagles were having consistent success. So like I said before, when it comes to, and this year, the NFL, the Super Bowl is in Vegas, February 10th, 2024, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. You're hearing it first from me that the Philadelphia Eagles will be playing in Super Bowl, I believe it's 54. The Philadelphia Eagles will be playing in the Super Bowl. They will be in Vegas on February 10th in 2024. And I've never done that in my life. I'm not a fan of doing predictions, especially with my team, because I just I just can't do it. I can't bring. I never bet it. When I do my parlays, I don't even bet for it. When I don't bet on the Eagles, I never did. I stay away from my team. I'll bet on somebody else's team. I'll predict something for somebody else's team. But when it comes to me and my team, I don't touch that. But I'm telling y'all right now, this year, 2024, 2023, 2024, the Philadelphia Eagles is on a redemption tour, and they coming back and getting everything that they didn't get last year. It's just that simple. And I never felt as confident about saying that in any year that I've ever talked about sports, done anything on podcasts with sports, none of that. This is the first time that y'all hearing it from me on my podcast, the very first time that I'm ever going to tell you that February 10th, 2024, when you turn on your TV to prepare to watch the Super Bowl, one team on that sideline will be the Philadelphia Eagles. And I say that as confidently as I can because I just look at the things that they've done. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Howie Roseman. I mean, what he's done to change the program, what he's done to create an identity. I mean, this guy, you know what I'm saying, we was ready to chop him up and put him in a cheesesteak and sell him at one of the Poppy stores and Ishkabibbles and, Max's and any one of these places that serve cheesesteaks in Philly. We was ready to bury this man. This man is the same man that went and got rid of, and when Andy Reid decided to hang the whistle up and go and pursue other opportunities, he brought in a guy named Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly comes in and brings this college mentality type of style to a blue collar city, and in the same breath gets rid of all the best guys on the field. I know y'all remember that. He got this man. This is the same man that got rid of LaShawn McCoy, the same man that got rid of Deshaun Jackson, the same man that got rid of Jeremy Maclin, the same man that got rid of everybody. I mean, just keep on naming them. I mean, he got rid of everybody. And then Howie Roseman, instead of saying, okay, you know what? Let's put a leash on some things. Let's try to tighten up some things because clearly this guy's a little bit over his head. He gives this man the keys to the franchise. Get this man the keys to the franchise. He gives Chip Kelly the GM title, and he goes and he's like, all right, I'm going to just sit I'm gonna sit in the side. I'm gonna sit passenger seat and let you drive this thing. Ladies and gentlemen, Howie Roseman birthday is a day after mine. He's a Cancer. So he's very emotionally driven. Now, June cancers and July cancers are two different cancers. June cancers, we wear our emotions on our sleeve, but we're not as aggressive as July cancers, and we're not as out front with our emotions as July cancers. We're more of internally, emotional creatures, and we value the opinions of everybody. So I can understand when I saw his birthday was June 23rd. I said, you know what, I can understand why he would make that decision. He was probably like feeling, his heart was heavy. He was like, you know what, this guy had a great first year. He's got that college, that recruiter mentality, and I'm just gonna let him kind of run the organization and see where it goes. So I can understand that. And I get it. People. Howie wasn't really, he's been a GM now. He actually got the position in 2010, so he was only, going into his third year as a GM. So I can understand it. I can understand why he would, feel like, okay, maybe this would be a good move, for the organization early in the game. He's been doing well. But yeah, I just Howie Roseman is the kind of guy, like, he wasn't going to be here too long. He was on a very short leash. We were calling for his job. But what he's done now after that 2015 season, when he gave the reins to Chip Kelly, and Chip Kelly actually decided that it was cool to get rid of Nick Foles, who had won us 9 games in the previous year, and go bring a guy named Sam Bradford with the loose ass arm sleeve and no mobility, and try to run this high up tempo offense with no quarterback and no mobility. No, we had Ryan Matthews in the backfield. I mean, it was all bad. Our receivers were Josh Huff and Dorian Green Beckham. Not Odell Beckham, Dorial Green Beckham. So, players make mistakes. Players fuck up. So I give Howie a pass. But man, what he's done since then, 2-time executive of the year, 2017, and then again last year. He's been in the organization since 2000, taking over for Joe Banner, who was the GM before him. Again, like I said, man, Howie, shout out to you, because we was coming for your head. You was about to be in one of these cheesesteaks. But the way he's turned it around, the way he's built an identity, it's just been amazing to see. The way he's drafted. I mean, our draft this year, I'm just looking at the guys, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. Let's talk about them two. I mean, look, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, two best players to me on the line outside of Will Anderson in the draft. And the fact that we didn't have to do anything to get them. Absolutely nothing. And see, it was great for me because I'm a Georgia fan. So I got the best of both worlds. Two of the bookends on the national championship team get to be plug and play guys immediately. Like, you got to think about this. Think about what your potential D-line scenario would look like. And I heard this from Seth Joyner on their podcast. He does Philly radio. He's an Eagles legend. He said that you think about the NASCAR package for the Philadelphia Eagles when it comes to their front. You could do so many different things. And guys that don't know what a front is, you got different sets of fronts that you could put out for your defense, especially on the D-line when it comes to like a 40 front, which is 4-down lineman, the 30 front, 3-down lineman in the nose, a 50 front, which is basically a bare front, is 5-down lineman. But he talked about the NASCAR package. He said, imagine this. Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter on the same side. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick. Or matter of fact, if you don't want to go that route, let's say you don't want to put Jordan Davis in there, sub him out. Now you throw Brandon Graham in there. Okay, Hassan Reddick needs a blow. Get Josh Sweat in there. Nolan Smith, he can be a guy. He could play in. He could be an edge rusher on outside. Jalen Carter could play the 3-tech, a shade, or the nose. Like, it's so many options that you have with these guys that, when you think about and you look at what happened in the Super Bowl last year, the reason why we ended up not being successful on defense, amongst a lot of things that were a problem on defense, one being the defensive coordinator, we got no pressure on Mahomes. He had the ability to go back there. He could He could sit back there all day and do whatever he wanted to do. Now you got people that can go get him. Now you got people that could put some hands on him. You got speed on the D line. D line outside, I would say outside of your running backs, your defensive line and offensive line are the two positions that you have to have the most depth because they do so much. So now you got a collective of 25 to 30 snaps between 7 or 8 different guys that you can rotate. That's a big problem. That is a big problem. And then I believe, Keely Ringo was a steal, another Georgia guy. Sidney Brown, the more I watch this kid, I'm just like excited about what he could potentially bring to that secondary because with Marcus Epps being out, now you got to lean on Avonte Maddox now more, who's more of a genuine nickel. We did sign the guy from the Steelers, Latrell, I think it was something Terrell Edmonds. We signed him from the Steelers, but now you got a young guy. He can play special teams. He's definitely going to be flying around. And we got the kid Steen from Bama, which is going to be another good pickup. Just some more depth on O-line because again, I think this is Jason Kelsey's last year. So I just the moves that again, I go back to Howard. The moves that he's made just exceptional. And then picking up DeAndre Swift for nothing. I mean, literally nothing. Like DeAndre Swift, we picked him up for a bag of chips. And this guy, when healthy, is easily a 1,200-yard rusher. Easily. Now, I am still a little salty we didn't get Bijan, but I'll take Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and get DeAndre Swift be back there with Rashad Penny and Kenneth Gainwell. So I'm going to say it again. And I said it, and I'm going to just reemphasize it once again. That with the moves that we've made, with the things that we've done on not only from an organizational standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, paying Jalen Hurts, giving him his bag early. Now these other quarterbacks can go out and get their bag, and he didn't reset the market before Lamar reset the market. The map that all this has kind of formed itself to be, and the moves that has been made. I'm telling y'all right now. If we stay healthy, because you got to take injuries into account. If we stay healthy, the Eagles on February 10th, 2024 will be in Las Vegas. Promise you that. And you heard it here first. And y'all, like I said before, I don't do that. I don't do that. But I just see it happening. Now, moving on. My second thing that I firmly believe is I think that, and this is just me being just looking from the outside in, because again, I like how when moves get made, people get real hype and want to start kind of putting people, just they want to they want to just put a team or put a person on a pedestal, and anoint them as being like, this is going to be the MVP or this is going to be the champion or all that other stuff. When it just comes to like free agency, when you look at people like, the Brooklyn Nets, when they got KD and Kyrie, they're going to the finals and they only won one playoff game together. But my second thing that I believe that's going to happen in 2023 is with all this hype around Aaron Rodgers and things that's going on with the Jets, and that he's finally out of Green Bay and now he's over there with the Jets. And I like the Jets. I like Robert Saleh, what he's got going on over there. But with all this media hype and pressure, my number 2 thing about 2023, the NFL preview, the Jets will not make the playoffs. They will not make the playoffs. I'm going to tell y'all, like I did when I predicted the Jags was going to make the playoffs, all this hype around Aaron Rodgers, I don't see it happening. Because you still got to play Josh Allen twice, Tua and them twice. You still got to play New England twice. The AFC East is a tough division. There ain't nothing to sneeze at. Then you got to go and you're going to have to go see Mahomes. You're probably going to have to see Lamar. The NFL schedule release comes out in the 20th. It comes out the 20th of May. It was in a couple weeks. So you're going to have to play Lamar. You're going to have to see Joe Burrow. You're going to have to see Justin Herbert. And I'm saying that you might not have to see these guys in the regular season, But you damn sure gonna have to see him if you make it to the playoffs. If you make it to the playoffs, that's if you win your division, who's already one of the stacked toughest divisions in football. And I understand what people are saying about the Jets, like, oh, they beat New England last year, or they beat the Bills last year without them, and all they did, this without them, and they were a brink away from making the playoffs, with no quarterback. Well, did they make the playoffs? They didn't. And just like with players, like when you look at the guys that have them great open, that 1 year where they do really well, the Carson Wentz, the Cam Newtons, Dak Prescott, teams watch film. Warren Sapp said this when he was doing a podcast with he was doing an interview on Vlad TV with Michael Irvin. He said the strongest enigma, I think it was something like the strongest enigma in the whole world is an NFL defense or something. And basically what he was saying, or it was the strongest adapting amoeba is an NFL defense in the world. But what he was saying was that this is the greatest part about football, because you could fool somebody once, but you can't fool them again. See, that's what people are missing. People are missing that teams are hip to the Jets. They're going to watch the film. They're going to see what the things that they didn't do well at the beginning, because, they changed their quarterback, but they didn't change their defense. I mean, Sauce Gardner's nice, respect to him, defensive player of the year and all that. But you think teams aren't going to scheme a lot harder for the Jets now? The Jets have the Jets remind me of the Tennessee Volunteers when they got the number 1 ranking. They were underrated, they were winning, and everybody was like, oh, Tennessee is doing boom, 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 boom. And then they got to Athens and got humbled against a real number 1 team. Like Aaron Rodgers, he's that guy. He's a future Hall of Famer. But your talent pool with wide receiver really hasn't changed, because outside of Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, not really all that. I mean, Randall Cobb is old. He's pretty much like the Chris Paul, if you want to call it, of the league. Great guy. I mean, maybe potentially a Hall of Famer. Who knows? But you don't really have a lot of talent really on. I mean, your running back Breece Hall's coming off an injury. It's not like it's. I just say let's pump the brakes on the Jets, and I truly believe that this year everybody's giving them all this hype. I'm gonna tell you right now, the Jets will not make the playoffs this year. I think the AFC is scorching hot with quarterbacks. I think it's going to be nip and tuck. I think they're going to struggle out the gate. It's almost going to be like Denver. You got to think about Denver too. Sean Payton coming back. I mean, hey, they could turn things around there. But I just don't see the Jets getting it done. At least not this year. I think they'll struggle out the gate. I think that they'll win a couple games here and there, but I think they're going to struggle in the beginning. I think that, when their division is already tough, I think that it's going to be too much pressure. They're going to have too much pressure because now the bullseye is on them. Now people are watching and paying attention to the Jets. So I think that now with that pressure, I don't think they handle it well. And I don't see them getting out the AFC East. I don't think that they'll get to the playoffs. So that's my second thing as far as the 2023 preview. The third thing, and this is going to be, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. The third thing is that, I like how I got a special interest in this team just because of the guy that they hired as their head coach, because he's the former DC for the Philadelphia Eagles that made 0 adjustments in the Super Bowl, that made 0 adjustments all season, that just let guys run freely around the field, had no idea what to put guys in, what positions to put guys in, got called out by a safety that used to play for him on Twitter about not making adjustments in the Super Bowl. I'm very interested in seeing what they do this season, just from a standpoint of just because I don't like their head coach. I think he's a noodle. I think he was inept to adjustments and being a play caller on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that he was pushed to the front of the line because the fact that he had great players around him. So the great players made up for his ineptitude as a coach, because when you got great players, you really don't got to do much. You really don't got to make a lot of adjustments, because your players, they save a lot of those calls and they save a lot of the game for you. And yeah, you're taking you're taking the love for it because you're the guy in charge. So my number 3 thing about the NFL season is I think that the Arizona Cardinals at some point, not saying it's going to be early, but at some point are going to start tanking for Caleb Williams. I think that they're going to start tanking. I think the Arizona Cardinals, yes, with Kyler Murray as their head coach, is going to start tanking for Caleb, or head coach as their quarterback is going to start tanking for Caleb Williams. And let me tell you why. Because Kyler Murray is not getting a very good rap in the NFL right now. He's getting a lot of flack for his lack of leadership, being too much of a gamer. He's got incentives in his contract about watching film. I don't see him being. I just watch him, and I don't see him really being. I had him as my MVP a few years ago because I thought he had everything around him when he had D Hop was cooking, and they got AJ Green, Connor, and all those guys. I thought they had a really good team, and then defensively, I thought they were really solid on defense. But I think Kyler Murray's. I don't see the love. I don't see you could tell a lot about a guy's love for the game by how they kind of their mannerisms after when they got to face adversity in a game. And every time I watch a Cardinals game and they're on my TV and I watch him play and I watch him make a mistake, like he doesn't have any emotion. It's just kind of like whatever. You know what I'm saying? And then when he scores, he does these dumbass celebrations. So I think that with that, I think the fact that they're not paying D-Hop's preparing to actually sit out, which as he should. I think he should get out of Arizona. I don't want him to go to the Cowboys, but he can go anywhere else. And then Budda Baker, they released Budda Baker. He doesn't want to be there. They didn't pick up Isaiah Simmons's their first round pick from a few years ago out of Clemson. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. So I just think it's a lot of Patrick Peterson is trashing the organization and the owner for not calling them for that situation. I just think it's real bad in Arizona right now. So I'm saying that my number 3 thing that I think I'm predicting this year, preview-wise, is the Arizona Cardinals are going to tank for Caleb Williams. And I think that they'll end up trying to get the number 1 pick. And I think at the end of the season, they'll go ahead and deal, because we know Caleb Williams, if y'all don't know who he is, Caleb Williams is the quarterback out of USC, won the Heisman last year. He'll be out after this year. And he's going to be the high commodity. He's going to be the Bryce Young. So I think that what's going to happen is I think that they're going to find a way to deal Kyler Murray. Whether that be deal him to like a place like Miami, because of the fact that we don't know what Tua's health is going to be, or deal him to maybe like LA to the Raiders. Because I think a guy like Kyler Murray, he's got to play in a big market. He's a person. He's a personal guy. He's on these commercials, and he's on cover of SportsCenter with Bronny. So like he's a big market guy. He's a big market personality. He does commercials. He does the Heisman commercials. So I think he's gonna definitely land in a big market like LA. I would even think about maybe like LA, Miami, either like with the Rams, depending on what they do with Stafford. If Stafford is, on his way out the door, he's, building up injuries, or with the Raiders, I could see him with the Raiders or like Miami, but it's definitely got to be a big market. Maybe Atlanta, down the line, if Desmond Ridder doesn't work out, I could see him going to Atlanta. But yeah, I think that they'll deal him out, and then they'll be trying to tank for Caleb Williams. So that's my 3rd thing that I think is going to happen this year in the NFL. 2023 is that the Cardinals is going to tank at some point for Caleb Williams. Number 4, I'm going to give you my AFC and NFC championship predictions, and I'm going to start in the NFC. I already told you the Eagles are going to be in the Super Bowl, so obviously they're going to be in the NFC championship game, but I've been paying a lot of recently. I don't know what this is a gut feeling. I think that I got my eye real heavy on Seattle this year. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I look at the things that they've done. First of all, when you go back to last year, I'm a big Pete Carroll fan. I love Pete Carroll. I like the way how he coaches his players. I don't fault, I still, everybody going to throw dirt on his name. They're going to throw smut on his name for the call in the Super Bowl. But like I said before, when you talk about organizations, you talk about, when you see these organizations like Seattle, like Philly, like Pittsburgh, New England, these consistent organizations that have this consistent success, and even if they have a little drop off, they always know how to pick it back up. They always know how, if they fumble, they always pick the ball up and they keep going. And I look at a team like Seattle and an organization like Seattle, they know who they are. They know who they are. They know what their identity is. And it showed itself last year. Nobody had Seattle in the playoffs last year. They thought Geno was going to fold. They thought this team was outdated. Everybody was out. The Legion of Boom and that, that brand was an afterthought. But they've picked it up. They've drafted well. They've went in. They've done the good things in free agency. I mean, their draft picks. They landed a DB, Devin Witherspoon. Who's going to play instantly alongside of their other corner who they drafted last year, who was up for Defensive Player of the Year as well. I'm a real fan of that Jackson Smith and Jigba pick. I mean, you put him with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba. People forgot, like, if you didn't watch college football, if you don't watch college football, if you did, you would remember that he pretty much was the best player on the field in the Rose Bowl. He was the best player on the field. And I think that him being that guy in the slot with DK and with Tyler Lockett on the outside, or they can mix it up with Geno, Kenneth Walker the third coming back. They drafted my man Kenny McIntosh. Kenny Mack got a UGA stand up. That was a steal. He's going to do a lot of great things for them, not only in the running back, not only in the run game, but in the pass game, and probably in special teams as a returner. Kenny Mack gets busy. So, look out for Seattle. I'm keeping my eye on Seattle this year. I'm a big fan of what they got going on. I'm a big fan of what their offseason looked like. I thought outside of us, they won the draft. They did really well drafting, and I'm keeping my eye on that. So I would say that, with that being said, I got the Eagles in Seattle in the NFC Championship game. I got them in the NFC Championship game, obviously in Philly, and obviously we're going to win. But I got them in the NFC Championship game. Now in the AFC, which again, gut feeling, just off of my what I see, and like, again, it's about identity, and I like what they got going on. I mean, look, we already know the Chiefs are going back to the AFC Championship. That's a foregone conclusion. I could see you. I thought about, Cincinnati. I thought about Buffalo, but I can't get with Buffalo right now. I think Buffalo is. I think they just all media. They all hype. I can't rock with Buffalo right now. So I'm gonna just have to just say, and I look at a team like, the Bengals. I think the Bengals are always going to be there. I think the Bengals are another team that's slowly building an identity organizationally of what they want to do. But, I just look at the Chiefs, and I just think that they're head and shoulders, just, when it gets down to it, they're like Golden State. They're going to be there at the very end. But I will say this. I truly believe, this is out of my heart of hearts, and this is kind of an emotional thing from last year. I think that this team takes that next step. And I think the Jaguars are in the AFC Championship game this year against the Chiefs. Now, it's going to be an Arrowhead, and the Chiefs are probably going to win. But if you look back at that game last year in the wild card game, the Jags was giving the Chiefs a lot of problems. I'm talking a lot of problems. And I'm thinking, with the fact that Trevor Lawrence had that experience, with the fact that they're young, with the fact that they got almost everybody coming back. I didn't really go too much into their draft and what they did in the draft, but I just think the core group of guys that they got, I think we go back to 2017 Jacksonville, when they had Ramsey and Calais Campbell and Leonard Fournette, and they had an identity, and they just went out there and punched you in the mouth. I think that the Jags are set up for success. I think Trevor Lawrence's big game experiences is going to be kicking in a lot more this year. Obviously, Dougie P is calling plays, so they're going to be okay. I don't see how you can even argue. I think it gets so like real for the Jags this year that they probably start out 6-1, 7-1, 7-1, 8-0. They by week 8, the Jags are only gonna have like 1 or 2 losses. And everybody gonna be like, oh, Jacksonville, oh, is it the year? Are they for real? The Jags are for real. You heard it from Coach B. The Jaguars are for real. They're gonna be in the AFC title game this year. They're gonna be playing the Chiefs. It's gonna be the Eagles versus Seattle in the NFC title game. It's gonna be the Jags and the Chiefs in the AFC title game. And then obviously we got the rematch, the rubber match. Because we got to get our lick back. We meaning the Birds. We got to get our lick back. So, yeah, run that shit back. We gonna do it again. We ain't gonna be on no slippery field this time. The refs, we not calling, we not throwing no flags. Mahomes, you got to see us again, respectfully. I know we play all in the regular season. I will be there at Arrowhead. I'm just waiting on the schedule to drop. It comes out May 20th. I will be there at Arrowhead, but. Yeah, I think that those are going to be the final 4. I think that the Seahawks, what Seattle's got going on right now, and what they're building, Geno taking that next step in year 2 with Seattle. I think that they're going to be a team that is going to be right there at the very end. And I think the Jags are a threat in the AFC because you got a team that really has they're playing like they're playing with house money. I mean, they have nothing. Nobody's looking for them. Nobody's checking for them. Nobody's, really got Trevor Lawrence on any sort of MVP boards. Everybody's kind of giving them the golf clap. Yeah, it was great last year. You guys got lucky and strike lightning in the bottle. But I'm telling y'all, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Seattle, look out for Seattle in the NFC. Look out for Jacksonville in the AFC. And I'm telling you that right now. You heard it first because I said it last year. I should have posted it. I'm so mad at myself. I said the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to make the playoffs. I said it. And they made the playoffs. And I was sick. They're going to the playoffs this year, and they're going to be playing in the AFC title game. What we saw in the first round last year is it's going to be the same exact thing. It's going to be the same exact thing. So yeah, and then number 5 is I just kind of laugh at this one. I kind of took this one as a I just was like, hey, I'm gonna just throw it on there, for shits and giggles. Number 5 is pretty simple. The Cowboys are gonna do, because the media loves talking about the Cowboys. Everything is about Dallas. So I'd say this, that the Cowboys are going to be very good next year, and they may get to the playoffs, but they will lose in the first round. And we're just gonna leave that at that. Because there's no reason to really talk about the Cowboys. I mean, I just threw that one out there. That was just kind of like for like I said, for shits and giggles, because they're who they are. They're the Dallas Cowboys. But that's my top 5 things. So number 1, like I said before, the Philadelphia Eagles will get back to the Super Bowl. Number 2, the Jets are not going to make the playoffs. So I would not put your money on the Jets if you're a betting person. Number 3, I think the Cardinals are going to tank for Caleb Williams at a certain point during the season, and Kyler Murray will be playing his last season in Arizona. Even though they did sign him to a big deal, I understand that, but I just don't believe that. I think that he's not the right guy for them. I think they're going to want to start over, and they'll find a way to get out of that deal, and they'll be fine with it because Gannon's he's a weirdo. And number 4, my AFC title game, Jags and Chiefs. And NFC title game, I got the Seahawks and the Eagles. And the Super Bowl, obviously, got the rematch with the Eagles and the Chiefs. And then number 5, the Cowboys will be great, and we'll be singing Kumbaya, and then they'll get to the first round of playoffs, and they'll lose like they always do. So anyway, that's that. That's my top 5. Now, I kind of want to do something like I did. I want to do something a little different. I want to kind of create a little more of a football scenario here and talk about some hard-hitting red zone topics. When you think about the red zone, you're actually getting close to the end zone. We're getting kind of close now to the finish line here for the podcast, because I know the game is going on right now, and I definitely want to kind of check that out. But my red zone topics, the first one I'm going to talk about is kind of the draft, the top 5, what I think my top 5 guys that got drafted that will make an impact this year. I'm gonna start at number 5, and I think that and I was actually kind of I was locked into him a little bit during the draft process, and I'm glad that he ended up where he ended up. Zay Flowers, number 5, to the Ravens. I think that's a huge pickup. You know what I'm saying? Him alongside with OBJ, you got that veteran rookie, kind of thing going on. Zay Flowers is electric. I mean, can get in and out of cuts, can do a lot of things laterally and in the return game. He's kind of a more, I would say he's a souped up Hollywood Brown. I would say that. From a standpoint of just the way he runs routes, how he gets in and out of his cuts, I think he's going to give them a lot of flexibility, in that as that number 2 and in special teams. And if you know anything about their offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, shout out to Georgia, Coach Monken. He definitely likes to do a lot of things with, like, he likes to work in some switch routes. He's a big high low concept guy, and he definitely knows how to use his receivers, especially his smaller receivers, because with UGA, he had AD Mitchell, who was only about 5'10". He had Ladd McConkey, who was a speedster, was about 5'11", maybe 6 foot. He dealt a lot with Kenny McIntosh. Like a lot of those, smaller, kind of shiftier receivers, he knew how to put them in positions to win. So I think with him, with having OBJ who can kind of still just take the top off any defense, he's going to be a guy that Todd Monken is going to use a lot. So Zay Flowers is definitely going to be, getting his shine this year. And I mean, I'm not going to say rookie of the year, but definitely has a chance to do some things, with the Ravens. And then number 4, I spoke about him earlier, Jackson Smith-Njigba. I just thought it was a great pickup. I thought Seattle just hit a home run with him. Being that third option with Tyler Lockett and DK, like, he's gonna eat in the slot. And he's gonna complement a lot of the things that they're gonna try to do. Especially with Tyler Lockett being now, kind of getting up there in age. They got that guy that can kind of be, just kind of be that extra piece in their offense. And then over the course of the season, probably start to see him get a lot more targets, get a lot more love, and make a lot of plays. And then again, even in special teams, I'm a huge fan of that pickup. So he would be my number 4. Number 3, Jalen Carter. I mean, for us to not us, meaning the Eagles, for us to not even have to really move much or do much to get him. I mean, it was, I thought that was a steal again. We already have 2 established vets on the D line that he can learn from, that can mentor him, that can put him in the positions to succeed. We got a coaching staff that can put him in the position to succeed, and he's just got the perfect situation right now for him. Being that he's in Philly with those guys, I think he's going to do great things, in Philly early, and I'm excited to see what he can do. He's got a lot of his teammates there. So he's going to be, he couldn't be in a better situation. There really, there was no situation that was going to be any more beneficial to him than being in Philly. So shout out to Jalen Carter. That's number 3. And I'm also putting Nolan Smith in there. That's kind of like number 3 together. I mean, Nolan Smith, again, not going to spend a lot of time. We spoke about it earlier, but Nolan Smith just being that, I mean, Nolan Smith has a very he has a very infectious personality that we need in the locker room. Nolan Smith is 100% a locker room guy. And he's going to do everything you ask him to do. He's going to work his ass off. And I think him coming off the edge on the opposite side of Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat is going to be crazy. I think Nolan Smith is set up for, I don't know what the rookie record for sacks is for the Eagles, but he's definitely set up for a rookie record of sacks. I think he might go for, I'm going to say between 8.5 to 10. And that's for a rookie. With all that power on the front line, with all that on the front line that he's going to be coming into, for him to get 8.5. I mean, you got to remember, the Eagles had 75 sacks last year as a D line alone. Each guy had 10. They had over 70 sacks as a defense, and each defensive lineman had 10 plus sacks. So I think he's set up for success. And man, Jalen, I don't think Jalen's going to get as many sacks. I think Jalen's going to be more around the 4.5 to 5, which is still pretty good for a first year for a rookie. But I think Nolan Smith was a steal. I think that he's going to definitely make an impact early, super early. So him and Jalen are going to be basically tying in number 3 and number 2. This is a sleeper too, and they're in our division. But I look at Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee. I thought that was a huge pickup for the Giants, and I don't think it's much so because like Daniel Jones, he's okay. I'm not a real fan of Danny Dimes, but I think that Jalen Hyatt, you know, people forget, like, this year, when you look at Tennessee's offense, he was pretty much their number one. He was their number one, and he was giving people hell. He's not the biggest guy. I believe he's like 6'1", 6'1 and a half. He's not, he's really kind of lean built. But when you got a guy that can get down the field in a hurry and that played in the SEC against elite competition and put up the numbers that he's put up in the SEC, barring injury, I think I thought he was one of the best, even going in the draft. I thought he was one of the best 3 receivers in the draft, complete receivers. When I say complete receivers, I'm talking about, from the hands, from the speed, from the eyes, from the route running. I thought it was him, Zay Flowers, and I was and I would have put like Jordan Addison in that category too. But I was a huge fan of Jalen Hyatt, and I'm sorry that he got picked up by the Giants because they're in our division. We got to play him twice, but yeah, he's going to be a guy that's going to make an instant impact for the Giants. And then number 1, I mean, I think anytime you get a transcendent defensive player like Will Anderson, you won the draft, and he, to me, will be defensive player of the year this year for Houston. I just look at the thing. I mean, he played at Bama. And 2, he's another locker room guy like Jalen, like I was saying with Nolan Smith, going to be a plug and play, going to play early. He's got an exceptional work ethic. He's the no nonsense. You ain't got to worry about him in the media and saying some off the wall things. He's going to be he's going to make an instant impact for them. So yeah, I got Jalen. I got Will Anderson is my number 1 for the top 5 prospects to look at this year, in 2023. And now we've come up on, now I want to get to my goal line topics because, again, we're creeping closer to the finish line. Our goal line topics, we just finished the red zone. Now we're in the goal line. My goal line topics, I have, the schedule release May 20th. I may do another live podcast for the schedule release. I don't know yet. But the schedule release comes out May 20th. I will be paying close attention to where that Eagles-Chiefs game lies, because I will be there front and center in Arrowhead with Chiefs Kingdom. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. College football game coming around the corner. UGA ready to try to go for this 3-peat. I'm a UGA fan. You know what I'm saying? I'm also interested to see what Marcus Freeman does at Notre Dame. He started out rough last year, but I mean, you can't really judge a coach off of his first year. You start really judging him in his second and third year. So I'm interested to see what Notre Dame does this year. But college football, I'm a huge college football fan. Love everything about it. So I'm interested in that. But yeah, schedule release May 20th. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the games. I'm definitely trying to see where, if we're gonna get a A-Rod versus his old team. I wonder if we're gonna get I know we're gonna get the Eagles versus Chiefs rematch. They already posted that. I wonder if we're gonna get a Devontae Adams versus a Raiders versus Jets game. I wonder if we'll see the whoever. I'm looking forward to seeing how they kind of structure, because I'm trying to think of all the things that happen in the offseason. Like if they're going to put this guy against this team, what I'm saying, the rookies like Anthony Richardson going up against CJ Stroud, Colts versus Texans, one of them type of games. Carolina versus Houston with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud dueling it out. That's going to be a real good, interesting game. I'm just looking forward to the season, man. It's just like we still got to go through the summer. We still got to go through the NBA playoffs, but I'm just looking forward to the season, man. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with that. But yeah, so that's going to be, that's going to be interesting to see May 20th NFL schedule reveal. But yeah, man, thanks for hopping on with me. Again, this was wanting to do something, get back to my roots, a little bit, talk a little ball. Again, for everybody that's tuned in and for everybody that will tune in, make sure y'all show love and share. I'll post a couple of these snippets on my social media. This is OTM Coach B. Follow me on all platforms, Out the Mud podcast on all platforms. Again, if you got a favorite team, shout me out, tag me. We could hop on, maybe do a joint podcast. We could talk a little more ball. But yeah, man, this podcast is for everybody. So again, love, always appreciative of everybody that wants to support and show love. And yeah, we're gonna continue to just build this sleeping giant. It's OTM Coach B, man. I'm out of here.